So I've traveled all around the world. I've been to Latin America, I went to Asia for a bit, and now I'm living here in Poland. I still haven't decided if I want to spend the rest of my life here, but what I can say is that there are a bunch of things that Poland does better than America. Starting with number one, the concept of personal freedom by having respect for your neighbor. Polish people value personal freedom a lot. There's still a cultural foundation for everybody to agree upon. For example, mutual respect for people on the street, not making too much noise in public, just a mentality that yes, I can do whatever I want as long as it doesn't bother other people. Whereas I think the US's concept of personal freedom is that I can do whatever I feel like, it doesn't matter what other people think. My opinion trumps those of other people. There is no overall values that unite us all together other than the fact that we can do whatever we want. Here in Poland, because it's still a very homogenous society, there are a bunch of Polish norms and rules of society that most people follow, even the new generation. And I think that's the perfect balance of what personal freedom should be like. One of the things that I love about Europe in general is just the overall infrastructure. And I mean that in two ways. I think European architecture is some of the best that you've seen in the world, and the public transport system is second to none. One of the things that annoy me the most about living in America is that in most cities, you need a car to survive. European cities are centuries old. They still found a way to make public transportation in all major European cities. In the US, we haven't been able to figure that out.
I don't have to have a car here, which is amazing.
I know, I like that too.
I get to take the tram everywhere. I love the walkability of it. I mean, Philadelphia is also very walkable, but because of the violence, you can't go everywhere in the city. Versus here, it's walkable and it's safe.
It just gives you a level of freedom that I think a lot of American cities don't have. To me, accessible public transportation is the gold standard in any major city.
Aesthetic element of Krakow is really great.
That's true.
But not very many American cities would I say that about.
There's just some sort of magic when you look at European architecture. Architecture has an effect on people's mental health.
You're right.
Totally, right?
Yeah,
because everything, and specifically LA, looks so industrial and it's just business and just nothing beautiful to look at.
The way your space is around you impacts how you feel, and so I think
yeah.
Europeans really value aesthetics in a way that we don't understand the importance of in the United States.
I think in the US, people try to get attention no matter the means. One of the issues that I have with the US is degenerate things for attention gets rewarded. And that's why people do it, because they get more attention, they get more fame, they get more money, and I hate that. If you go to an Asian country or here, if you're acting a fool in public, people will let you know. It's like, what the F are you doing? Like, stop that. Your parents will beat you, you know? Like, because there's still an overall respect for the general society and not being a nuisance. In this part of the world, they don't want to completely dishonor their family, whereas in many places in the West, it doesn't matter what the family thinks. A lot of people in America like to talk about how we shouldn't shame or judge other people for behaving poorly, but I disagree with that. I think societal shame is actually a good thing because it keeps people in check. I like Polish people's sense of humor because they don't get offended easily by anything, to be honest. If you're not used to that and you come from the West where humor is a lot more watered down because of all this PC woke BS, it's gonna be a shock to you, but I think that's generally how it should be. Reminds me a lot of how it was in Colombia and Latin America, where they'll call you a fatty, they call me Chino, but all of it comes from a place of love, because at the end of the day, it's really not that serious. Poland is an extremely safe country. I think there are many factors for this. One, because it's a homogenous society. The society can enforce the general norms a lot better. But I think one of the key reasons is because there are so many nuclear families in Poland. There's a father in the household. There's a general respect for parents and society. It's important to have men who are respected in society. When you have big, bulky police officers walking everywhere, people are going to obey the rules because I don't want to mess with that guy. And I cannot say the same about America right now. People don't even respect the law. In places like New York, people can shoplift, and if it's under $1,000, they can't be criminally prosecuted.
A brazen robbery at a Lululemon store is caught on camera. Watch here as the suspects stroll out of the store right past a security guard with sacks full of merchandise.
Jennifer Ferguson and Rachel Rogers say they were fired for trying to stop shoplifters from stealing from Lululemon.
Of course, people are not going to obey the laws if they don't fear or respect the consequences.
I just love that I can walk around at night here and I'm not afraid of someone shooting me or stabbing me.
Right. Have you ever felt unsafe here? Never. Right?
No. I walked home from bars at like 3 a.m. and
no
it's
issues.
fine, yeah.
Polish people have the stereotype for being racist. In my experience and talking to all my friends who are Black or Asian, they've all had very positive experiences here. Whereas everybody that I've talked to who is of a minority race that have lived in America or that were born there all tell me that America is extremely racist. So here's the trick of America, right? They preach that we're all equal, but they treat me like an Asian. And there's the soft bigotry of low expectations where people, mostly white people, will get offended on my behalf. I hate that shit. Why are you trying to coddle me? It's like, I don't think it's offensive.
Right.
Why are you getting offended for me? Hidden intent is almost like you kind of treat me like a child. You see what I'm saying? Even though a lot of people claim that we're trying to abolish racism, it seems like everything in America is always about race. Asian men are definitely not desirable, and that's because all the negative stereotypes that have been put on Asian men in Hollywood for years have definitely affected the collective consciousness. Asian men, unfortunately, are just not really seen as attractive there.
I think it's changing.
It is changing.
But I see your
But when
point.
we were growing up, it was
Yeah,
not like that.
you're right.
I might as well go to a place where my race is highly respected, right?
Yeah.
So here's a very interesting point. In the US, Asian men get criticized for being dorks, right? We're all about our studies, we don't have any social skills, and we're not bold enough compared to, for example, black guys who have a lot more charisma and who are a lot more open than us. So we're seen as more submissive and we don't have any courage. Asian men here, we're seen as being very intelligent, very disciplined, hardworking, and not causing any problems. It's the exact same traits, but different societies value it differently. Here in Poland specifically, I feel like it's a good balance of what equality is. Polish women are not submissive or traditional like people are thinking. They're very strong, they're very independent, they're very capable. However, there's still a healthy respect for the men doing men jobs and women doing women jobs. Most of the police officers are big, bulky men. And it's not to say that women can't do that job, but if I want people who are soldiers or protecting society, I want the big, scary men to be doing that. Polish women don't really care about your money that much. They don't mind splitting the bills. I've heard a lot of Polish people say that that's definitely changing. Coming from America, and maybe my experience is different because I'm a foreigner, I've seen some pretty good things so far. In the US, everything that is masculine is seen as toxic masculinity, whereas here, I'm not saying that they don't have their problems. They definitely have issues with alcohol, and maybe domestic abuse was an issue, you know, a couple generations ago. But for the most part, I would say that being a traditionally masculine man, having strong values, being assertive, being a dominant, being a leader, being extremely useful to the group, all of these traits are still very valuable here. Something I really commend Poland for is their policy on immigration. They received a lot of pressure from the EU to receive migrants from North African countries or Muslim countries. Poland very politely and very firmly said no. We see a lot of the bad things that are happening in Western Europe right now with open borders and unregulated immigration, but Poland has a very firm stance and they're very strong in protecting their values. Poland's overall stance is like, if you're gonna come to Poland, you're gonna be here with a purpose, you're gonna contribute to society. If you're not going to do any of those things, get the F out. And this, to me, is the gold standard of immigration and how it should be anywhere in the world. I recently saw the House of Representatives had to vote on whether people need citizenship in order to vote in the elections. That, to me, was when it truly woke up for me, like, what the F is going on in the US? How can you allow people into the country and then allow them to vote when they're not a citizen of that country? The older that I get, the more I understand why people have strong immigration policies and don't want people from other cultures to immigrate. Because I think there are certain cultures that work well together, but there are many people that immigrate to a place and refuse to assimilate to that culture, and I do have a problem with that. How would you say the general treatment of Americans are here in Poland?
It's pretty favorable. Like, I'm not saying that you have to become Polish, but if you try to assimilate in some way,
They welcome you a lot.
they welcome you. Yeah. If
yeah,
you're trying to just be like, I'm from the best country in the world and everything's better, then it's not gonna go well.
Something that I really admire about Poland is their strong family values. They defend their country. But I feel like national pride in the US is different because it doesn't have the same shared struggles that a people of a nation have. For example, Poland, pretty much all throughout their history, they've been invaded by the Russians or the Germans or the Austrians. They have this mentality where they have to protect their culture at all costs because they've been just trying to survive this whole entire time.
Another thing that Poland is so prideful of is after 100 years of not even being a country, being wiped off the map, it still remains. And that, I think, really does solidify its importance of its identity.
I also like that they're protective of their language.
Yes.
Because language is so linked to cultures.
In America, I think there's two factors that add to a lack of nationalism. Number one, many of us are immigrants, so we still have ties to our original country. The only thing that really unites us is the fact that we were all born in America. Number two, no major wars ever happened on American soil. When we fight wars, we normally go to other places. It sounds really bad to say. Conflicts like this are what really bring people together because we never had to experience that in America. I don't think we have the same level of unity and national pride as many other countries in the world do. And even to the point where if you're so nationalistic in America, people will call you a racist or a bigot or all of these things just because you're pro-America.
There's more cultures, there's more traditions, there's different people just in the US in general. In Poland, it has more tradition, it's just more nationalistic than just because it has now such a longevity of tradition and ideologies.
So let's talk about a controversial one. I personally really like Poland's views on LGBT. I still see gay partners, mostly lesbian partners, walking around everywhere, but it's more like, you know, you do you, whatever you do in your sex life. It doesn't really matter to us. Just don't try to bring that whole entire movement to this country. And I can respect that. Out of all the places that I've been to, I think Southeast Asia probably does it the best. Lady boys, LGBT is so integrated into the culture that people just don't talk about it because people just don't generally care. I think LGBT is such a non-issue because there are so many more important things that we should be talking about as a country. In the US, they are so hyper fixated on LGBT and abortion, but they don't care about what's going on in our economy, why everything's getting a lot more expensive, all the things that I find are a lot more important issues. A lot of people want to move to the US because there's a lot higher earning potential. So if making money is your goal, I think America is still the best place in the world to do it. However, for most people, you're just generally looking for the highest quality of life. And if you go to America and you're making all this money, but your cost of living is also so high for a standard of living that, in my opinion, is a lot lesser, I don't know if that's worth it. Here in Europe, you can be making a lot less money, let's say $30,000 a year, but you can still live a very good middle-class life. And there's also a lot of support that you get from the government in terms of education, of healthcare. I just think generally the standard of life in Europe is a lot better compared to America. I highly recommend that you guys watch this video here. What do you guys think? Share your thoughts down below. I'll see you later. Peace.